Stupid phone. Now let's see if we can find myself. Okay, that's not gonna work either. It should be in HD. I don't know why it's not working. Hi guys. Wow, we're already up to 16, 20. Okay. The reason I'm here, there's a lot of comments because, where's the turbine? And let me fix this a little bit. Where's the turbine? Well, I'm working on it. I know in the end of my last little video, I had some additional commentary saying why I don't have a turbine out there yet. I should stop bumping the table too. And there's a lot of reasons. And I just kind of wanted to go over them and maybe kind of feel you guys out for some additional content or ideas and maybe even motivation. Anyways, I have a lot of the parts and a lot of the tools to put it together, but right now no time. So that's one of the hurdles. A big reason I don't have time is I have two big projects to do before the end of this month, and that would be finishing the insulation here because the permit's up on the 28th, and I don't want to have to go through doing an extension because that'll just cost money, and who knows if they've changed which codes they go off of at the time of my permit application. And the other one is I own a rental property, and it's a little bit more than a rental property. It was more like my wife and I bought a property back by where our parents are, which is where we're from. We both went to the same high school, so we started dating in high school actually. And we wanted to move back home, which is about 2 hours away from where we are right now. And why do you keep focusing? Just focus on my face. That's annoying. And we bought a property there that's actually, it's 3 acres in the middle of town, and it's a fairly large town, 50,000 people it's a few towns together, and our property's in the middle there, and it needs some work. Currently her sister is renting it, and I've done a few things to it, like I recently redid the bathroom. I didn't really record much of it because it was pressed for time, so I didn't want to have to worry about recording and dealing with the camera, and it was a tight bathroom, and it was dusty, and I was filthy, and I didn't want to record it. I might put up some stuff later. It's still not done, and that's one of the things that I have to work on is finishing that bathroom, painting all the trim. I did everything except painting. So that's one thing that I have to finish. And then I also have to finish the trim. I should back up a little bit. She's moving out at the end of this month, so I need to get it ready for another renter. So it needs some of the trim put back on around the baseboards because I redid all of the floors in that property before she moved in, so I need to put some trim back on. She's been okay with it being off for a little bit. And the kitchen floor needs replaced. And then another big project, I'm probably going to record a lot of it, is there's a in-ground swimming pool in the back that's 30, 40 years old. And it doesn't hold water, and it's ironically holding water about 2 feet below the rim right now. So that needs taken care of for insurance purposes and just to make it look nice. We bought the property about 4 years ago, and it had we bought it from a bank, so it was a REO, real estate owned by a bank, and there was a cover over the pool. I mean, there's still a cover over the pool, but it just looks like trash. So we need to get that removed, and that's going to be a big project with the excavator. Want to get it done before winter this year. And then also we need to put a new roof on the building. The whole roof is bad and needs replaced, and there's some rot that needs replaced too. And that all costs money. So another portion of not completing the project is money. Like, we own a business, and it's a veterinary hospital, and we make variable amounts of money. I don't have another job. I do stuff around the house. Like, see this whole kitchen behind me? I did that last summer instead of having a job. And then I work for the hospital. So we only have really one source of income, and my YouTube channel, it makes enough money to support itself, but it's not enough to really have my wife say, yeah, go out and do some more YouTube money, because that's making a lot of YouTube work, because it's making a lot of money. And I kind of am doing it for the money, but I'm kind of doing it for myself too, and you guys. I'm just not big enough that the money is justifying my time to go towards YouTube instead of other things like finishing the house or finishing our rental property, so that we can get another tenant in there at the end of this month and have well, right now she's renting it for $650, and that's about $3,000 short of our expenses. So I need to, once I get it fixed up and rent it out for like $1,100 a month. It's just a single family house right now. We bought it to put a veterinary hospital there, and it's also a house. It was actually a funeral home that, no, I mean, yes, it was a funeral home, but it was also a house. So there's like, it's 4,000 square feet approximately. So there's 2,000 square feet of house and then 2,000 square feet of business that's attached. And that 2,000 square feet of business is like just about the right size for a veterinary hospital, and it's a fantastic location. So that's kind of why we bought it. But right now it's just my sister-in-law living there, and yeah, so that's that. Let me read some of the comments here and just see how we're standing. Yes, real life first. Although at some point YouTube becomes real life. And there's nobody else here. It's just me. Well, if you count dogs as being somebody, there are many somebodies here. Behind the camera over there, there's 5 puppies in a kennel. They're about a month old. And then there's 3 other dogs in here. So my wife and kid are back home with my sister-in-law right now. I need to set moderators. I don't really think I need to set moderators. There's not a whole lot of junk in the comments right now because you guys are cool. So I'm not going to worry about figuring that out right now. And to stop focusing, I need to buy a decent camera. Let me try this. If I can switch the camera to my other side, maybe this will work better. I had it on my front camera because I wanted to preview it, and so now I switched it back to the back camera. I'm using my cell phone as the video for this video. Hopefully the sound is still good because it's on the other side. I think that's pretty good. Let me just center my face in it. So I don't really know how this is supposed to work. I'm actually viewing my live stream on another browser than my stock one. Maybe I can view it on my own YouTube channel, and then I can do my own comments. I don't have a good camera that can, yes, I can do this. Okay. I don't have a good camera that can do 1080p streaming. I hope this is 1080p. We'll see. Nope, it's just up to 720. I don't know why. I have a Logitech 920 HD, whatever, webcam, but my laptop is not powerful enough to run it at HD video, which sucks. And I finally got the go-ahead from my wife to get a better editing computer. There was a miscommunication issue. She thought it was going to be like a $3,000 machine. I'm like, no, it's going to be like $1,000 all in. So that should help this sort of stuff. I've been not doing live streams because my laptop is incapable, and I figured there's no excuse anymore. Let's just do it, even though I'm using my cell phone camera right now. I guess maybe this is a trial for maybe if I wanted to do some live video down in the creek. Whatever. Let's check the comments here a little bit. Also, my laptop has a camera, but it's junk. I have this camera. It's a Canon EOS M6 with a nice microphone, but it's you can't do live streaming on it. So unless somebody knows how to, you can't plug this into the computer and live stream. So it's dumb. The turbine will get done. Part of the reason for doing this stream is because I have some news for you guys about that. Start Patreon. I actually have $200 a month in Patreon income, which is, I'm calling that my computer fund. At least that's how I'm allocating it. And I am reading these comments. I'm just trying to focus on the camera too and tell a story. Could I record the remodel and post? The remodel of the house, I have some video, and I need to edit it, but I didn't know if it was really good enough. And on my channel, it seems like you guys, at least the views, say that remodel work or tractor work or whatever, anything that's not playing with water isn't worth watching. So that's kind of a demotivator for me to do that sort of stuff, because it takes time and energy to do that. And if it's not going to be viewed a lot, then I'm kind of dissuaded from doing it. All of my tractor videos have earned me around $200, and I don't know if it's really worth the time and effort it takes to edit those videos together. That's over. That's like 25 videos that I've had to edit together. So, yeah, not a whole lot of income from those. I don't know if it's worth the money. So I have disconnected the garden hose, so I don't have to worry about it freezing when the weather gets so cold. Permitting, I'm kind of ignoring the permitting issue, as in I'm not doing it in a permitted manner. It is just spring water flowing down a hillside and ditch. It's not a navigable waterway. It's not a migratory waterway. Heck, after the turbine, it goes through a culvert for almost 200 feet. And I think it's beneficial to be running through a penstock, because then it's not contributing silt to anything downstream. Silt is a huge issue around here. It just got brighter. One of my lights came back on. I had a burnout bulb in my softbox. I do have a GoPro. In fact, last time I did a live stream, I did not have the GoPro then. I do have a GoPro now. It's a Hero 7 Black. I suppose I could be doing live stream on that. And then I kind of don't like GoPro because a lot of the stuff is wide, but I could probably narrow in on my face. So PC specs, since we can talk about that right now, I was planning on doing a Ryzen 3rd gen 3600 with MSI Max motherboard of some sort that's around $70, and then graphics card. I was going to go with one of the new 1660 Supers, and NZXT case, 16 gigs of 3600 megahertz RAM, and a 970 Pro half gig or half terabyte SSD. So that should be pretty good for editing. And then a 27-inch 1440p monitor, and all of that will be right under $1,000 or around $1,000. So that's definitely within the budget. And Linus's editing PC was for 4K. So my budget is actually a little bit less power intensive, since everything I do is 1080p. For the longest time, my laptop is only good for 1080p. This does 1080p, and that's how it works for me. I'm not like a Casey Neistat doing 4K everything, or Marquez Brownlee or Linus with his red cameras. Ain't nobody got time for that. Somebody with a name that I can't pronounce is looking for tips to build a PC, and just go watch some videos. I'm not going to have any better tips than they do. In fact, the last time I built a PC, it was AMD Athlon 3600 single core, single thread or whatever. So it was a long time ago that I built a PC. It had like 512 megabytes of RAM. And yeah, GoPro, change it from wide to normal. I do all my GoPro video in normal. RX 580, apparently, because I use Adobe Premiere and I do pay for it, I use, well, Adobe Premiere is better with NVIDIA cards. That's what I hear. So RX 580, while probably great for gaming, I don't do like any computer gaming, partially because I have a crap computer right now. But for editing, I need NVIDIA cards. Okay, since I'm caught up on comments, we can go over turbine stuff. It's taken me a long time to get things together, and I'm still kind of engineering it in my head. I have these spoons, but I kind of don't want to do it with Pelton. This is a Pelton spoon. If you guys can focus on that. I'm sure you know what this is if you're watching my channel. You put 30 of these or so around a computer, or not a computer, around a rotor, and then it spins, and you shoot water in here, and it deflects out the sides, and it tries to stop the water. So the tip velocity of this is going to be half of your stream velocity, and that's how that works. But I don't like these. I don't like the idea of these, because you have water that shoots off one side inevitably towards your alternator, which has the bearings, and that's why I don't like them. And then you have windage issues with all the splashing is like everywhere. So I kind of like the Turgo spoons, which is more like a spoon from your house, and water comes in, it deflects off of it, and it makes it rotate. And the water's only coming in, so if it rotates this way, the water's coming in at an angle, actually be more like this, if I'm going it this way and rotating it away. And the water comes in one side and goes out the other. So you put your motor over here, water comes in, and it leaves away from the motor. So that protects the bearings. Chris Harbor had an issue with his bearings going bad because of water ingress, because of, and my light turned out again, because of was a Pelton in his back. I'm gonna go turn that light off because it's irritating. There we go. So it's gone. It's not going to keep bothering us. Or bothering me. I don't know if it bothers you guys. It just bothers me. Back to the turbine. What I was going to do, because I need to work on my welding skills, and I can't weld because I don't have my welding table set up. Because I got a welding table. I got a welder. It's an AC/DC TIG welder from Everlast. And to weld up a turbine housing, I need somewhere to weld it. And I don't have that set up. And I need to figure out some way to do the nozzles. And that's kind of it for that. But for like content right now, I was thinking of using these ones that I do have in my Wind Blue, which is a DC 520 model number modified car alternator, and just putting up a video for now. It would do, and I would use my existing charge controller and battery setup and inverter that you guys have seen. It's the Victron 7510, so it's 75 volts maximum open circuit, and these with the Wind Blue alternator and an 11-inch pitch diameter, so that'd be 11 inches from here to the one on the other side. Would be around 500 watts, which would give me the right voltage. Not 500 watts. What am I saying? So 11 inches, 500 RPMs. There we go. It's getting a little bit late. 10:30. Wow. And 500 RPMs would be approximately half of the open circuit voltage. So if my load controller, my charge controller shuts off for whatever reason, or no, the battery is full, then the turbine will freewheel, and the voltage that the turbine would make would be less than the charge controller. A big reason why I'm kind of lagging behind on doing the big turbine with the alternator that you guys have seen, the one from Moat Energy. That's an ME 1603, I think. It's a 48 volts alternator. I don't have a charge controller for that, and a proper charge controller would be a lot of money. And then I'd have to have a battery bank, and that's a lot of money too. I don't have those right now because of money primarily. But also, I was just talking with Spencer of Spencer Langston's Alternative Energy. You might have seen some of his YouTube videos, and he has a website, and he sells turbines for a living. That's his job. And he told me that basically the charge controller to get is a Midnight Classic 200 non-SL model. So I don't know how much those are, $500,000, something like that. So that's part of the reason why I'm slow doing that, because it's a lot of money. And then the batteries, a decent battery bank to handle that amount of charge and then have a useful lifespan and capacity would be another $1,000 at least. So that's kind of a stopping point right now. I need to save up a little bit of money to pay for that stuff. So that's another thing. Money. I just don't have enough saved up right now to buy a lot of the other components besides the turbine itself. Space is another issue. I have issues all over the place right now. To set up the welding table, I just today have enough space downstairs to set it up, because my house right where I am now is built on top of my garage workshop area, which is 960 square feet. So it's not very big, and I have a lot of stuff in there. And I've just been trying to clear it out so that I have space to work. And we finally got a shed. You guys saw the shed video, and that shed is now full, but there's still like walking room. So that has a lot of the stuff that is like household stuff, like decorations, some old clothes, baby stuff, bicycles, kayak equipment. So I was able to put all that stuff in the shed and have more room downstairs for shop stuff. I'd like to ultimately get a lathe and a mill and a CNC router, but again, those are not in the budget right now. How many people are 63 people? Okay. My last live stream that I did, I had 20,000 subscribers. Yeah, it was a 20,000 subscriber special. And I think I had up to 25 subscribers, or 25 viewers. And so now we're at 64, so that's good. I'm happy. Let's check the comments, because I've been blabbering to you guys straight at the camera for a while now. Can a water wheel be located after the turbine? My dad wants me to do this a lot, or not a lot, but he's been trying to get me to do it. And the reason you don't put a water wheel below the turbine is because you need to have, I'll use this as an example. So for the turbine that I have set up in my creek, and if here's the culvert, the turbine will be right here. But if you have a water wheel, then you have to have the output of the turbine up here, so you lose this height. And then you have to try to regain that energy in the water wheel over this height. So why not just get rid of the water wheel and use this extra head height on the turbine? That's why you can't use the water wheel after the turbine. Although in my case I could, it would just have to be on the other end of the culvert in the ditch. But that's kind of more public, and I'm on a big road. I just don't want to have that in a public space where people are seeing it. I realize that thousands of people see my other stuff here, but I don't want anybody walking by and then trying to mess with it for their safety and my property. Somebody was asking about these spoons. They're on eBay. You just type in Pelton spoon. And Langston, when I was talking with him, he said that the ones from Italy are good and the ones from Turkey are not so good. But I think I bought these from Missouri. He might import them, so I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah, you can look around and you'll see ones from Turkey and Italy. And the Italy ones are good and the Turkey ones are not so good. Have I thought about buying a pre-built turbine unit? I have thought about it, and the markup is about 50%, and that doesn't make a good video. I want to show myself welding together the turbine housing. Anybody could go out and buy a turbine. On a side note, Spencer Langston, of Langston Alternative Energy, he's sending me some equipment so I can at least get something up and running like next week. He said he's going to get it shipped out Monday. And then he also has a really cool low head hydro turbine that he's sending up too. And we're going to try it over at Andy's house. He said it's a stator and a magnet rotor from a motorcycle hooked up to a turbo wheel from like a giant diesel truck or something in some 4-inch PVC pipe. So that's one way to make a turbine, I guess. He said it works down to 3 feet with 50 to 100 gallons per minute, something like that. So we're going to try that over at Andy's, and that should be a video coming up soon, I hope. Andy, if you're seeing this now, that was my thoughts. I know I mentioned that we could play with it in your creek. Do I have ADHD? My brother had some learning disability like that, but not so much me. I was never tested and confirmed to have it. I'm just kind of an introvert and lazy. So I guess maybe that's some form of ADHD. Just catching up on the comments here. Is it possible to encase the turbine and protect the bearings and have the shaft extrude out some length to the generator? Yes, you can. You don't want to have a long overhang on your generator, at least with the motor being here. Now, what you could do is have a significant shaft and then a set of bearings here, and then you could attach the turbine on the end. So the turbine is just getting the torque and not any of the, I guess they'd be radial loads. Yeah, that's the right term, radial loads. And then another option is to have a fully supported shaft with bearings on both ends, and then you could attach your, alternator generator here, or you could attach it with belt and chain and pulley or whatever, but above or beside it. So that's an option. Typically, I think you would want to have it as close to the motor as possible, so that reduces the load on the bearings. And I got my first super chat, so that's fantastic. Did you know that you can use your Google rewards for super chats? I just found that out watching a Linus Tech Tip stream. That's when there's an app called Google Rewards, and if you go visit places like Applebee's or whatever, and you have a location tracking turned on your phone, it'll send you a survey, and then you complete that survey, which usually takes like 10 seconds, and then you get 12, 20, 30 cents from it, and then you can use that money on apps or other. Okay, the dryer's done, or other things. So I just thought that was cool information. Just trying to share it for you guys. I have like $9 saved up. I don't really buy a whole lot of apps, so I need to do some super chats with it, I think. Yep. Dupes402, hi. I remember, I'm trying to think, the earliest video that you really showed up on was part 3 of the water wheel. So you've been here since I had like 1,000 subscribers or less. Do I have a donation link? Oh, you figured it out. Okay. I lost my place in the chat. I guess I should talk a little bit about efficiency between these two, because you guys are talking about spoons and how efficient they are. Supposedly, the efficiency between this and a Turgo spoon, I don't have one, so this is my stand-in example. This is supposedly supposed to be more efficient, but this is pretty good too. But I think that this is superior because of maybe less windage and better water handling. So that's my thoughts. I don't know how tolerant they are to alignment. Maybe a Pelton is better for alignment, or maybe a Turgo is better for alignment. Some of them are a little bit picky. I know when I was talking to Spencer, he said that you have to have the water coming into the jet or into the spoon at the exact right spot to get the most efficiency. If it's off to one side or the other, then you'll have issues, which is a huge problem for my system, because my jet diameter is going to be like a 1/4 inch. So I have to line up a 1/4 inch with this spoon to get the most efficiency. And I think a Turgo might have more leniency for alignment issues. Location, Pennsylvania, that's all I'm going to say. I know I'm pretty far behind. Oh, I got a $20 super chat too from Netman. To the water power, thank you. I was not expecting to get any super chats in this video of you 76 guys that are watching, and girls. Although 95% of my viewers are men. So I'll just assume that for now, there are maybe 2 women watching based on the statistics. Build the battery bank myself. My brother is collecting 18650s, and he gets them from his work, and he has a whole box of them. I think he has about 4 kilowatt hours of 18650 batteries saved up. So I need to get those and then work on Powerwall. I know HB Powerwall is a subscriber of mine. He has some pretty good videos. HB Powerwall, if you want to go watch some videos about building 18650 Powerwalls. Another viewer, or not viewer, maybe subscriber. I don't know if he's a subscriber to me. Average Joe, he does some good videos on 18650 battery packs too. But I was thinking about doing some Battleborn batteries like Will Pros, or there's some battery recyclers around here. I might just get some used commercial batteries. Like I missed out on some from a school bus, like an hour away, that were replaced on schedule, like 2 years of service. So they only had 2 years of service on them. Giant lead acid batteries. So that would have been a good option for budget too, just to get something going. Okay. I just got a $400 super chat. W2 Kamer, I don't know how to say your name. Thank you. I thought it was really, I'm going to screenshot this. Okay. I thought it was funny that on a Linus Tech Tips video, not Tech Tips, his WAN show, he had a $250 donation on a previous video from Raspberry Pi, and it showed up for the rest of the video. So I know that your super chat's going to be on there for a long time. The rest of this live stream for sure. Vincent, you're welcome. I try to produce entertaining content for you guys. Badger Matt, you have a lathe. That's fantastic. What kind of lathe do you have? I've been thinking about getting a lathe for myself. Maybe if I could get a special from the guy, because I'm a content creator. But I really try not to do anything sponsored. You haven't seen any sponsored videos from me. I got a slight discount on the welder for product placement, but that's it. That's the only content sponsorship I've had. I've been thinking about getting a Precision Matthews lathe, which is an importer, and he's down in Pittsburgh, so I could drive there. That's within driving range, and he has some pretty good lathes, I'd say. Make the water wheel look like a decoration. What do you mean by that? Do you want me to paint like flowers on it or something? I mean, I can. Orientation of the turbine. So I could have the turbine like this with the generator up here, or I could have it horizontal with the generator here. You have water issues with it like this. The first generator that Chris Harbor did was like this, and he had bearing issues with water ingress. So I think it's better to have the turbine like this. And then all of your jets, if you care about efficiency too, all of your jets can be placed as low as possible. So you get the extra head height and you get the extra efficiency. Whereas like this, you lose a few inches for whatever it matters. I realize in some cases that would mean a lot, like Chris Harbor's, does he have like 25 or 40 feet of head? So that's 6 inches would be a significant percentage of his power. But in my case, 6 inches is like nothing. It's just the way they are. Oh, you sent the gifts. Okay, you must be loaded. Thank you. I appreciate them. I was using the battery today even. And I have to get a microphone splitter for the microphone so that I can do one channel, like on one side would be right channel, and then facing the other way would be left channel. And then combine them together, and then so in the camera you get one channel for one microphone, the other channel for the other microphone, and then I can just select which one I want to use. Just for those who don't know, I got another one of these from one of the viewers, and so now I won't have any mistakes with the audio. There are some times where I will forget to switch it because I'm too busy doing work. So sometimes the sound that you guys hear is from the microphone pointing away from me, and then I have to amplify it, and then it just doesn't sound good at all. Another thing I need to do besides this is to get a lavalier mic, which is like a microphone that would go on my collar here. But good wireless ones of that are expensive. So that's another purchase that I'll get sometime soon. Have I thought of controlling the flow based on pressure with an Arduino or something like that? From Mark Rose. Yes, that is actively in progress. I am collaborating with another viewer who has a lot of experience doing water monitoring electronics, not necessarily controls, but apparently monitoring electronics and controls go hand in hand. So what he's doing is he has a sensor that I'm going to put up in the barrel way up on the hill, and it shoots down a pipe at a ping pong ball. And it's an ultrasonic sensor, so it measures how high the ping pong ball is. So we're going to use that to determine the level of the water and try to keep the level of the water right below the overflow. So that gets us our maximum pressure, reduces any like swirling and bubbles. So that'll get me maximum pressure. And to do that, we're going to adjust the number of valves on the bottom. And I kind of want to set it up in a binary fashion. So you have a 5-bit binary arrangement. So you have 1 gallon per minute, 2 gallon per minute jets, 4 gallon per minute jets, 8 gallon per minute jets, and 16 gallon per minute jets. So that gets you 31 gallons per minute of flow in 1 gallon increments. I realize 5 bits is 32, but 0 flow isn't anything. So that doesn't count. So we're working on a control system for that. And I don't have anything in hand. I've seen a few pictures, so I know he's serious about it. He's got some parts together. And that'll be content for a future video. Oh, you have a Precision Matthews. 12 by 36. That's fantastic. I do actually have a lathe. It's a Shoreline like 5000 series. It's a Denford CNC lathe, but it's like a 3 by 12. So it's tiny and it's all CNC, so I can't do any manual stuff on it. And well, frankly, it's not working right now. I need to get the controls set up for it, and then a computer that's programmed to work on that lathe. Which I kind of want to sell that lathe, and then I have another Shoreline mill that's a matching set. And I recently saw a matching set of those sold on eBay for $3,000, and I bought them for $350. So I could make a little bit of a profit after I fix them up and get them working. I had to rip out the control boards, which had proprietary like hardware control stuff on them, and rewire them with a parallel breakout board that runs. So it had like the electronics controls and then the driver board. So this did all the motor motion, and then this sent all the signals to the motor driver. So I ripped out this board and then replaced it with a parallel breakout board. I have videos for that. Just type in Denford for my channel, DENFORD, if you want to see. That was probably 2 years ago that I made those videos. Why do I have to adjust the valve or the nozzle size and not the the amount of water going into the penstock at the top. Because there's a comment here about using a float valve at the top. And the problem with a float valve is, so you have, here's my exhibit A. You have this column of water that's flowing down. And then you have a float valve at the top that sees the water go down, and it shuts this. And all of this water here is still moving and pulling down. So what would happen is the top part of it would do probably two things at the same time, or maybe one of the two for certain. You would have a vacuum, like a 100% full vacuum, essentially, because you have a column of water here that's 280 feet high, in my case. And water can only exist in a vacuum up to 33.2 feet is 1 atmosphere. So you can have 33 feet, and then above that would be vacuum. And the vacuum would be probably crushing the pipe because your float valve would shut it. And then I don't even know if that float valve would open. So that's not how you control it. You don't control any stop at the top. You have to control it with nozzles at the bottom of varying diameters. And a smaller diameter nozzle will flow less water, less gallons per minute. So I just have to do a combination of nozzles to match the water that's flowing in to the water that's flowing out. And that's how that would work. And then people are talking about a tank on the top. The problem is I would be flowing like anywhere from 1 to 30 gallons per minute. And my reserve storage up there is only 30 gallons. So worst case scenario, that would be 1 minute of storage. To put anything more up there, so say you wanted an hour of storage. If the spring's running slow and you're storing up a lot of water and you want an hour of storage and you want to do, like, we'll say 15 gallons per minute is an efficient production. So 15 gallons times 60, that's going to be, since I can't do math right now, 900 gallons of storage to do 15 gallon per minute for an hour. And the only realistic way to do 900 gallons of water would be 2 IBC totes. IBC tote is the giant white square pallet shaped tanks. And there's no way I'm getting those up there. But the whole point of my project is to match the inflow to the outflow. And if it's flowing so little that I have to go down to like 1 gallon per minute, it's probably not even going to run the turbine. And if it did, it'd only be a few watts. So it wouldn't even be worth having on at that point. So that's that. And then you guys are talking about pump storage. I do know what pump storage is. And it's, at least in my case, it'd be better to put that stored energy into a battery. Uh, 98 people. Hello, 98 people. And apparently I've caught up on comments. Hi, Vinny57. Trying to think of what else I can say. Okay, I know what else. I'm not sure what to do with the power that I do generate. Ideally, I would be doing grid tie. So any power that I make would go straight back into the grid. And that would offset my electric use for the house, probably reducing my energy bill. I did the calculations, maybe about a third of it, which would be generated by see if this reloads, and we're back. Okay, guys, I fixed it. I feel like an idiot doing this live stream here. And my phone dies because I don't have it plugged in. I had 50% battery power when I started this, and I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes. But no, you guys drained my phone battery. Thanks. So I had to plug it back in and then wait for it to, get above 3% or whatever to turn on and stay on, and then resume the stream. So here we are. Sorry, guys. I am a amateur. Thank you for the respects, guys. F for respect. 43, so we're coming back. That's good. Oh, so you guys did see it go sideways. I was like, why is it sideways? That was my first indication that something's going on. Then my phone beeped and it was gone. So is it doing it again? I hope we're back now. If it dies again, we're just going to end the stream and then I'll do it tomorrow. I think part of the problem is that my phone was still doing a startup sequence when I started the stream, so then it was dead. I mean, it didn't have enough charge current coming in to overcome the processor power of it starting up still. So I think that was the problem. I hope. And I probably will use a lot of that money that my awesome supporter gave me for a better streaming setup, a dedicated streaming setup. Apparently my friend Andy is watching too. The charger I have on my phone right now is an Anchor 2 amp, I think. I have the stock charger somewhere. I think it's in my truck. But it should be enough to get my phone going. And I thought I was going to plug it in, but I forgot to. That was one of the things. I was trying to prepare like notes for the video and make sure that my pimple here isn't bleeding. And then I just forgot to plug my phone in. So So multiple turbines. Mark Rose is asking about multiple turbines. And yes, there is a viable reason to have multiple turbines and need multiple turbines. Like Chris Harbor was having an issue with his turbine where at his lowest flow, he's losing a lot of power to friction, just friction in the bearings or windage from the fan, just to spin it up to enough RPMs. He's losing a lot to other frictions. So if he had a smaller turbine for his summer flows that had less friction because it was smaller, then that is a good reason to have two turbines. Ideally, you would have one nozzle that's the right size all the time. And that variable spear valve is a close approximation to that. The 5 valves in series, I think is just a simple way for me to have variable flow without having any low flow issues with a spear valve. You can also have multiple turbines if you want to run it in parallel. Say you have, like, what is it? Power spout. Power spout, you'll see a lot of installations on YouTube where they are, like they'll have 8 or 10 of them lined up in a row because it's a stock size turbine, and then you just add as many as you have flow available. So that's one way. For my system, I don't know if it would really make sense to have 2 turbines, because one big turbine is generally going to be more efficient than 2 smaller turbines. That's my thoughts on that. And then Horizon 585, guy in New Zealand, you're talking about Angry Ram, who doesn't go by Angry Ram anymore. I forget his name. Yeah, I've seen his video. It's pretty cool. We don't have those sort of motors around here, washing machine motors. So that's not a viable path for me unless I wanted to import one, which I don't want to pay for the extra cost of that. They're just scrapping it out of a machine and then marking it up a lot, and I don't want to pay for that. What phone do I have? I have a Galaxy S9, not the big one, just the regular sized Galaxy S9. And I bought it for, when we found out we were pregnant, I needed a better camera because my old camera, which I still have and it still works, is a 1+1, but the lens is all fogged up because of scratches. So I needed a better camera. Actually, I used that phone for a lot of my water wheel videos. At least the first one I know was all on my cell phone. And because the phone hasn't died, that means it's probably caught up and will be here for a lot longer now, or at least until the stream's done, because it's plugged in and it's not dead yet. So I assume we're on the up curve. Greetings from Newfoundland, Canada. Beautiful country up there. Piping to 5 nozzles isn't going to be a problem because I'm going to have, I use my hands a lot, I apologize. I'm going to have water coming into the turbine pit, and then it's going to branch off 4 different flexible 1.5-inch hoses. The clear stuff that you guys saw, I got enough of that to go in a spiral to every jet, just like Chris Harbour's. And I do want to do solar and I do want to do wind, so it's not just going to be the hydro turbine. Progress, I'd say progress right now is not time limit or not money limited, partially thanks to recent donations. Well, recent donations plus whatever Spencer is sending me, is apparently he's just giving me a few turbine runners that I can just excuse me, that I can just plug and play. So that will be interesting. Hello, David from Texas. Stream quality is really good. That's fantastic. Still only 720p, and I tried to do good lighting. It's kind of a mix of color temperatures that works with the stream quality. That's probably why it looks better than a lot of people who will do live streaming, because I have a big softbox set up right there. let's not unplug my charging. And you guys are crooked. There we go. That took longer than I thought. So I have the softbox set up and then the lights on in here, but they're different color temperatures. So that's maybe making it look a little bit goofy. Like the cabinets behind me, they're not yellow. They're actually white in real life. But it's just that the lights above the cabinets are more yellow than the softbox. And I could actually correct that. My softbox has 5 bulbs in it. And I have one of them as more of a warm color bulb, so I can change the color temperature. I have it shut off right now because it looks a little bit goofy sometimes. Maybe I could try it another time, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. Just make sure you guys are still plugged in because I don't want it to cut out again. That sucks. Hello, Henry in South Carolina. Jacob, you can contribute just by commenting, thumbs up, sharing. All of those are free. Doesn't cost you anything. That's a great way to contribute. Before the stream cut out the first time, I was talking about what I'm going to do with the power, and I want to get back to that. So I'm going to be making anywhere between, we'll say 40 watts and 1,000 watts, depending on how the spring is flowing. So I have to do something with that power. And I'd like to use it for my house and just not touch the grid at all. So ideally, I would want to do a system like David Paz recently did a video. Let me try to find the title of that on YouTube and send you guys there. I'll leave a link to it in the comments on the right side. Or I guess if you're on mobile, it would be on the left if you have comments turned on. He went and visited a guy that has pretty much an off-grid system, but it has grid backup. So his backup, instead of having like a generator, is the grid. And I think that's fascinating. So I would like to do something like that. That would be ideal for me. The costs are a little bit higher, but then I don't have to deal with grid tie. There's the link. I just put it there. I don't have to deal with grid tie and feed-in tariffs. At least that's what it's called in Europe. I don't know if that's what it's called here. So then I just don't have to deal with that side of it. So I would only be consuming from the power company and never putting back to the power company. The disadvantage to that is I would be cycling batteries, so that would be using lifespan of batteries. But if I do video content for that, then it's probably going to cancel out the costs for me, maybe. And then I'd also have a decent grid out option. You know, if the grid dies, then I'll still have some power. The reason I probably need to do grid tie is because I have multiple high watt loads, high amp loads. Just 3 off the top of my head that make this into somewhat of an unrealistic wish is my water heater. So that's 4,000 watts. And then my clothes dryer, 4,000 watts. And the hot tub, 4,000 watts. So that's 12,000 watts of capacity I would need to power all of those things. And then those things will run for, well, the hot tub's on all the time. And then not all the time, you know, it cycles on and off to maintain temperature. But the clothes dryer will run for many hours at a time because we have, you know, family going here and dogs and kid, and, you know, I make a lot of dirty clothes too. And then showering and bath time, and it's just a lot of energy use, all in the form of resistance heat. So that would really affect whatever sort of system I bought. Now, I'm thinking about it right now, thanks to you guys, it may be a better option instead of spending money on a more powerful inverter, like a 12,000 watt inverter. That's 12,000 continuous watts, not like instantaneous or surge watts, is to replace my water heater with an air source heat pump water heater and plumb it to the outside air. So my water heater, which is in the closet in the bathroom right now, it would not work with an air source heat pump because those work great in basements, but not in a small bathroom. So it'd be sucking all the heat out of the bathroom into the water, and that's not what I want to do. I'd rather be sucking the heat out of outside. So I'd have to duct it to outside. And then also getting one of two things for the clothes dryer. There are condensing clothes dryers and then heat pump clothes dryers. So condensing clothes dryer, it has, it uses water to condense. Does it use water? I'm not sure right now, but it's not a heat pump. It condenses the water out of the air and it recycles the heat. But it uses water as the cooling function to condense the water out of the air, and it recycles the heat. A heat pump clothes dryer will use maybe about the same amount of electricity, maybe more, but it's like a dehumidifier that's running with a fan and a little bit of heater in the clothes dryer, so it uses a lot less energy. Now the hot tub, I can't really do much about that. I can insulate it better. I did install the hot tub on a foam insulation sheet. So it's insulated on the bottom. I could still add a insulating skirt around the perimeter and maybe another layer on the lid. And that would take care of a lot of the efficiency losses in the hot tub. I have my thermal camera. I'm going to probably do a video on thermals of I'm going to do a video on thermals of stuff around the house, just so you guys can see it. So that'll be interesting, I feel. Let's catch up on the comments because I've been blabbering for a long time again. That's probably part of the reason why I'm coughing. Might have to end it just because my voice is starting to go. I don't usually talk for 2 hours straight, you know? Use power for a grow light. I have a grow light. I have I have a lot of the stuff to do inside aquaponics. So that's one way I could use electricity, because I'd have it downstairs in the garage, because at least during the winter. So I'd have to heat it, and I'd have to light it, and then I'd have to bubbles, and then pump the water. So that's all electricity that I could do. That it could be off grid, so it may even be more reliable than grid. That's a big problem that a lot of guys that do aquaponics is if they have a power outage and the bubblers aren't going and the filters aren't getting water pushed through, then your fish will die, and that's not good. So potentially an off-grid system, maybe with a little bit of a grid backup, would be great for aquaponics too. Or maybe grid aquaponics with off-grid backup. Another thing I could do with electricity is just I could just run it through a resistance heater and heat my house. You know, I could set up a 500 watt baseboard heater in the house and then just cycle it on and off to use the power from a battery bank, and then that energy will be free in the house. So that's another option to use some energy. Gas range. So Time to Kill is asking about a gas range, and actually you'll see right behind me if I move my head, it's electric. Oh, my shoulder's in the way. So that's electric, and we don't actually have any gas in our house. We don't have any wood. We don't have any oil. Our house is 100% electric. It's super insulated, so my heating costs are really a small portion of my bill. And and then partially because I have a heat pump air heater. So that also reduces my electrical costs compared to other all-electric houses that will use resistance heat everywhere. I do have gas up to the building, but it's not attached to the building. So if there is ever an issue, I could go with gas. But a big reason why I didn't want to do gas is that that's, again, multiple reasons. First, I have another utility connection, so that's a whole bunch of pipes and stuff that I have to deal with. Then I have another bill. And then I have venting ductwork. So, and I tried to build my house as airtight as I can, and it is really airtight. There are no drafts anywhere. And if I had vents for a gas water heater or like a gas clothes, well, I guess the clothes dryer has the, so it'd just be the water heater. I don't think it's really worth it to have another utility connection just for the water heater in our case. Or wood heater. C, exhaust venting. That's why I don't want to do wood heat, because they suck, like literally suck. So wind, in the Northeast, we had wind warnings, watches, I forget which. And I have a weather station. I'll put a link to the weather station so you guys can see it. Not my actual weather station down there, but the same model, because I don't want you guys to see my weather. It's kind of private. Anyways, in this past windy storm, I had a peak wind of 35 miles an hour. So that was a gust of 35 miles an hour. Get link, text. And on average days during the day, because it's windy during the day and usually calm at night, unless there's a storm rolling through, it will be minimum of 5 miles an hour in the winter during the day. And there's a link to the weather station that I have, and it is connected to the internet. And peaking on average around 10, 15 miles an hour during the day in the winter. During the summer, it's pretty calm, so it's not really useful during the summer. But during the day in the winter, it would probably be producing power all day, at least from 10 o'clock until 6, I'd say. The economics of wind turbine here, I did some calculations. I don't know where they are right now, but it looked like I would be making, if I had a 10-foot turbine, about a quarter of my electrical power or something like that. I don't know. That seems optimistic actually to me right now. Yes, net metering, not feed-in tariffs. I said feed-in tariffs earlier. A lot of the reading that I do is from Europe, because they're all into that stuff. So I think of feed-in tariffs, not net metering. And as far as them paying retail price, that really depends on the power company and the state and the location. Sometimes they'll be just a portion of it, or sometimes they'll just give you credits. Vinny 57, you're in Ontario, so I'm a little south from you in Pennsylvania, and actually yesterday it was snowing all day. It was just spit and snow, like no actual accumulation, but once in a while you'd see some snow fall across your vision. Small wind turbines are noisy. Luckily, I don't have any neighbors except a machine shop and lighting warehouse. So they don't care. And for me, the wind turbine will be on the front yard next to the highway. So again, noise is not an issue, in my opinion. And Vinny, as far as the trees, most of my video is behind the house, up against the hill, which is woods. Out in front of my house is basically, I can see horizon to horizon, and we get like a decent sunrise and sunset here actually, which is on the south side, and there's a lot of businesses and highways, so there's not many trees out there actually. So that's good for solar and wind. And then my house is along the prevailing direction of the wind, so I'm moving my hand like this because that's the direction that the wind moves usually, as far as where I'm sitting here. So the valley is in this direction, and the prevailing wind direction is in this direction. So it channels all along our hillside here. And then there's another thing that goes on, and I forget the term for it, but we get the sun heats up the hillside behind our house, and that will actually suck air because it's heating up the air, and the air wants to rise in a thermal up along the hillside, and it'll actually suck air across our house too. So we get some additional wind there. I feel. I can't prove that, but I think that's what's going on. It's just an interesting phenomenon that goes on here. And as far as snow, there wasn't any snow on the ground here. Actually, on top of the hill, maybe at the spring there was snow on the ground, but here there was not, because it's actually high enough in elevation for that to actually change. Solar water heating. Again, that's another thing that David Paz had done some videos on. I'm not knocking it. It's good as a DIY option, but generally it's better to collect the energy in the form of photovoltaics, so like traditional solar panels, and then using that to run a heat pump. So that's better for heat than solar thermal. Plus you can store the energy and use it anytime. Actually, solar thermal, you can store the energy and use it too. Just different technologies. But if it's solar PV, then you can use that for other things, like selling it back to the grid or air conditioning your house. You can't really do that with solar thermal. It's just, that's my thoughts on it. And Andy L, there you are. Yeah, Andy's looked into it where we live. Andy L is, you see in the comments there, he's the guy I did the Andy's water wheel. So if you want to watch his or subscribe to him, he would really appreciate that. How long does it take to walk up the hill? About 15 minutes to walk up and about 9 minutes to walk down. I'd like to get it to 9 minutes to walk up and 9 minutes to walk down, if you get what I'm saying. I'm working on it. And I'm looking for an ATV to get up the hill fast, because my neighbor actually goes up the hill that I walk up in an ATV. He has a Suzuki, trying to think of the right, it's a quad runner. It's one step below the King Quad, so it's a 250. And it's four-wheel drive with low and extra low with front diff lock and rear diff lock. So it's a fantastic little quad for the woods. If you get into trouble with it, it's light enough and small enough that you can pull it out. I remember, so at my parents' house, actually my aunt's right now, we have a Honda Recon 250, and then my dad has a Polaris 500. And if you get the Recon stuck, you know, you can hop off and then just drag it out of the hole pretty much by hand. But if my dad's 500 gets stuck, you better get out the winch. So I like the small ATVs just because they are so easy to dislodge. And I don't really care about going fast. And dog noises, yes. Honey, the mother, hi, is in the kennel and they are currently draining her. Hotmail land, water battery, we discussed that, and it doesn't make sense. I'm just trying to use the water as it comes out of the hill. And if the flow is low enough that I would need to store it, then it's not enough energy to bother dealing with. So I imagine during the summer, I'll probably just shut it down and save the water for other uses like watering the garden. How's the mountain bike trail going? He hasn't done a whole lot of work down beside my house, but he's been working on it further up the hill. So my neighbor has a mountain bike trail because, well, he owns a machine shop, and then he bought the land for the machine shop, and that included a lot of the hillside, which actually my penstock runs across his land that I got permission from. And he's looking at buying land further up on the hill. So he owns up about 300 feet in elevation that he has his downhill mountain bike course on. And the hill here behind me is 600 feet in elevation total. So he's working on acquiring more property further up the hill. And there is actually a road that goes up a valley just down the road. So you can actually take a truck up to the top of the hill and then ride out some driveways. It's like a really long private driveway out to basically the top of the hill. So he's gotten permission to ride at least his bike out there. So he'll have access to 600 feet of elevation for a mountain bike course, which is, I guess that's a pretty good size for a mountain bike course. Mark Rose, AVE could build me something. I feel like that's more of a this old Tony type of thing, not AVE. Just my opinion. But also that's not necessarily needed because I've been working with another viewer on a control system, and we're just going to use pre-made 12-volt valves like I used for the automated sprinkler system. Hello, Devillon. I really don't know if that's how you say your name in France. You need popcorn. I need popcorn. I thought about doing a video on popcorn. If you guys care, I'll show you how I make popcorn. Heck, in the live stream, because the oven's right behind me. I'll make popcorn with you guys if you want. Just let me know. And I do it kind of a special way. And I see the comments are moving, so maybe you're talking about popcorn. All right, I guess we're doing popcorn. Down. Okay. And I have my battery with me, so what is this? A RAV Power. It's got, 2 bars of battery, so good enough for video here. To make popcorn, this is just an electric burner here. I have whirly pot and some special ingredients. Yes, here we are. Just put it up a little bit so you guys can see. And this will probably get loud, so noise alert. And okay, this is a Whirley pop. If you go on Amazon, it's around $25. It's a stovetop cooker for popcorn. In my case, I've had this one for about 10 years and used it, I'd say on average 2 to 3 times a week. And I clean it out occasionally. It's probably got a little bit of buildup. It does need cleaned out some. Now, what I do is, here's ingredient number 1. This is coconut oil. In this case, Snappy. It's a whole gallon of coconut oil. And it's made for popcorn. It's got an orange food coloring in it. This is coconut oil. It is also known as 76-degree oil. You can see in there right now it's solid. So I jam a spoon in and I get some chunks of coconut oil. And I put it in there, so that's about half of it. And get some more. And a little bit more. Okay, so we got some coconut oil in there, and I just noticed that there's some leftover popcorn kernels from last time that were stuck. So those go to the dog. There you go, honey. So we have our coconut oil, we have the popcorn kernels. This is white popcorn corn instead of the yellow. It just has it's a smaller size kernel, and I think it has less chance of getting stuck in your teeth. And that's why I use the white stuff, because it doesn't get stuck in my teeth as much. So then I put in enough to coat. Hope you guys can see this. I put in enough to coat about one side of it. And then final special ingredient here that I have in this container, because the other container I have broke. This container it came in. This stuff is the key to my popcorn. This is called Flavacol. Flavacol, I think. If somebody wants to find a link and put it in the comments, I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. I put in, this is a half teaspoon, so I put in 1 teaspoon of this salt. And then this will yield, in my opinion, what is very close to a movie theater style popcorn. Now, I also make my popcorn different ways. Instead of coconut oil, I'll use olive oil or vegetable oil sometimes, or you could even use this stuff too. And in fact, I need to use up the rest of this just to get rid of it. And then salt, you can use salt like this, or you can get other flavored salts, or just table salt is another option. That's good. And you can use table salt with butter, or this stuff with butter. But in my case, I like it with just the coconut oil and no additional butter. And I'll put in a little extra coconut oil. That gives it a real good flavor, in my opinion. Now, you can also make in this Whirley Pop kettle corn. I've made that before in this one. And to make kettle corn, you just add, I think you might want to double check, but you add an equal amount of sugar as salt. So in my case, I'd add an additional teaspoon of sugar, and that would make kettle corn, but I probably wouldn't be using this stuff. I'd be using some other, maybe an uncolored coconut oil. And you want to use coconut oil because it has a high smoke temperature. So it doesn't really start to break down until around 420 degrees Fahrenheit. A lot of other oils will break down at like 370 or 350, but we want to get it really roaring hot. I realize it's taking a little bit of time, but I'm trying to explain things. Usually it doesn't take this long. Oh, another way that you can do this is you can take a microwave bag of popcorn and scrape all the stuff out of the bag and put it in here. If you do that with 2 bags, that's about 1 Whirley pop. So you can make microwave popcorn on the stovetop. I've done that too. So now I turn the burner on high, and then I'm gonna stir. And this is where it's gonna get loud, so you guys might want to turn down your volume. And then I'll be back, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes. And I'll reposition the camera so you guys can see what I'm seeing, because then it's a lot more entertaining. Hopefully we don't smoke the camera, because it's kind of close to the burner, if you see the foot there. And I'll do this kind of off to the side, which is not an ergonomic position for me. Now, sometimes when I do it, I will preheat the oil, but I don't think that's necessarily necessary. And it does take a little bit of time for the oil to all melt, and then it starts to really get going fast. Now, once I start hearing popping, I'm going to close the lid so I don't get splashed with hot oil. Bye, Jacob. Yes, it is a cooking stream. We're making popcorn because somebody mentioned wanting popcorn, and I wanted popcorn too. So here we are making popcorn. And for those wondering, this is a hand crank. And the burner, you guys can see, is purple there in the camera, but in real life it's red. That's because it's a lot of IR, infrared, so the camera picks up infrared more than our eyes. It's 4 a.m. Are you in England? Okay. See that? It's popping. So I got to close it, otherwise I don't get splashed, or otherwise I'll get splashed. Alright, I took it off the burner once it was kind of full, because it fills up. I can't spin the handle anymore because it's so full. And I let it do the last few pops off of the burner. Otherwise, you're going to burn the bottom of the popcorn, and that's no good. And then I just shake it out. And then these you can throw back in, or you can throw them to the dog. There's a few that spilled out, so there you go, honey. There's some more. Well, that's good. It appears that we did not lose many viewers. So then here's the popcorn, and it's delicious. No additional salt needed, no additional butter needed. And then I like to pair it with my favorite drink, which is part of the reason why it takes me 15 minutes to get up the hill. I'm not a big alcohol drinker, actually. I don't like the taste of alcohol. Like, I'll drink alcohol maybe once a month. And usually that would be in the form of like a Mike's Hard Lemonade or a like a screwdriver. That's what I would drink. That would be at like a wedding or a party or something. All right, let's go back through the comments and see what I missed. And other videos that I thought about doing, I guess I just did my popcorn video. I can maybe edit that together and release it as a separate video. Other things that I do that are maybe a little bit different than other people is pizza and beef jerky. Because I have a special beef jerky slicer that I built, which I don't know if I'm going to use it very much anymore because I got a commercial deli slicer, which is a subject for another video, but it needs work. It needs a little bit of work. I got it cheap. And now I'm going to be picking at my teeth in the video, so I'm going to stop eating popcorn for you guys, for the sake of you guys, because I'm going to have it later. The popcorn is also really good if you leave it out on the counter and then have it the next day. It's really good then because it like dries out and it gets a little bit more crispy. And I watched a video on Alton Brown. I remember a long time ago, Alton Brown would leave the popcorn out and then have it with cereal in the morning. He's a monster. I'm never going to do that. Hello, person in New Zealand, Liam Duncan. And from Minnesota, Indiglo Gaming. And yes, that popcorn, so not the popcorn, the oil is $20 on Amazon for a gallon. And it lasts forever. So I make popcorn like 2 to 3 times a week. And I've had that gallon of oil for almost 2 years now. So it really lasts a long time. It doesn't go bad because it turns to a solid state. And it doesn't go rancid. Like you can tell if it would go rancid, you could smell it. But it doesn't. So I just keep using it. And then every 2 years I spend $20 on popcorn oil. And then the salt, the salt lasts forever. I got my, I'm on my second box of Flavacol salt. And so that's really cheap and that lasts a long time too. The most expensive part of it is probably the popcorn. Another fun thing to do is take a popcorn. What is a single popcorn called? I don't know. And you throw it on the hot burner after you're done, and then it just like bursts into flames. So that's fun to watch. And then I have the vent fan on, so it doesn't matter if it bursts into flames. It's not going to do anything. And somebody comments about putting aluminum in your food. I don't know that it wears really at all. I haven't noticed anywhere. It has like a pyrolyzed oil on the bottom at this point. So it doesn't even wear off any aluminum. And if you were to try to run it, he's like, see, I eat popcorn and then I spit it out as I'm talking. That's embarrassing. If you use a drill, then it, I imagine it wouldn't work well at all, unless you had it like real slow. Wow. Happy Sunday, at least where I am. Zeke Venzante, if that's said correctly, is asking about if I could combine water from other springs. And yes, I could, but there's not a whole lot of other springs up there. The spring that I'm using is the major spring along that section of hillside. There's some additional surface flow further up above the spring that I could channel into it and collect that water. And then there's a few other small springs along the hillside at approximately the same elevation that I could pipe in, but they're a lot smaller. They're probably a quarter of the flow or less, I'd say. So it's not really worth pursuing. Timeline for the turbine. Either I do something in a day and post it, or it's going to be more than a month. And I think I'm going to have to dedicate a day, put something up, and then work on a more professional, finalized solution starting in a month or a little bit later, because I have other stuff going on right now. And Alex Matt is saying I should do more streams. I agree. Because the first streams that I did, I didn't get any, this might sound selfish, but I didn't get any super chats, but this time I did. So it makes it a lot more worth my time to do this. Because right now I could be doing other things like cleaning the house. So tomorrow morning, instead of probably making myself breakfast, I'm going to spend the morning cleaning the house, which I could have been doing right now. Ryan Monahan is asking about what other stuff. What other stuff are you talking about? Is that directed at me? I can't tell. What type of wheel do you use to turn the generator with water? What I'm going to use, I covered this earlier in the stream, but I can just show it real quick for you, because we may have completely different viewers now than 2 hours ago. You can have a turgo, which is like a spoon, and water shoots off. Water would shoot at it and then make it rotate, so at an angle, and it rotate this way. Or you can use a Pelton spoon. And this is a Pelton spoon, so this would be Turgo, Turgo, and this is Pelton, Pelton. And the water with this would come straight on and then shoot off both sides. And then that would spin a motor. True Worshippers is asking DC or AC, and it's kind of both. Most generators that you would see for this sort of stuff is permanent magnet 3-phase AC, and then that gets rectified through a little one-way diode module. It's called a rectifier, and it changes that three-phase into DC, positive and negative. I'm sure you could watch some other videos better explaining it. I'm not even that good at explaining electrical stuff. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, not electrical engineer. And the system does use water and gravity, so water flows out of a spring up the hill into a pipe, and the pipe has an elevation change, and that develops pressure, and the pressure shoots the water out of a nozzle. Ideally, the amount of water flowing out of the nozzle in gallons per minute matches the water flowing in at the top. Of course, it would have to, but out of the spring matches the water flowing out of the nozzle. And then that water flowing out of the nozzle spins the turbine. And then somebody's knocking spoons. There are guys on YouTube that make actual turbines out of spoons, so don't knock them. The geometry for a normal dish spoon is actually not that bad. Not chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, Mark. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Penn State University. I'm not actively engineering right now. The last time I did engineering was probably 2 to 3 years ago. And I left that because they were doing really goofy management stuff, and I kind of had enough of it, and I was busy enough with our business here that I didn't really have the time to even be an engineer, because the amount of money we'd have to spend for our hospital to pay landscaping, tax accountant, payroll person, maintenance, IT guy, I wear all of those hats instead of paying somebody else to do that stuff. Clear layout of the turbine shed so you can see it working. I'm going to have an opaque insulated roof with a clear window on the turbine housing. So I'm going to have, in that pit that I built, a smaller turbine housing that's going to have the spinny bit and the motor. And then in the pit itself is going to be all the piping that goes around it and the wiring. And that's going to have a lid. So that'll keep it warm, it'll keep it from freezing, and it'll keep the sound in. NTA CMS 90 is asking about the video. If you would just Google search maybe hydro turbine, and then it's probably going to be not far down. Oh, look, I'm in there a lot. So there's one guy here, copy link address. This guy is not using conventional or dedicated spoons. There's just chunks of PVC pipe. So that works too. And then the one I'm talking about with the spoons, he has the spoons attached to a bicycle wheel, but the bicycle wheel is a hub motor for an electric bike. And I'm not seeing it. Maybe somebody else could find it. I know it's in my playlist. I have a micro hydro playlist that has a ton of videos, and I guarantee it's in there somewhere. Let me put up a link to my micro hydro playlist, because I don't know if you guys know that I have other playlists of stuff. And Okay, I have 322 videos of just micro hydro of typically well, it is micro hydro, so it's smaller stuff. So there's that playlist. Penn State. Mark's asking about ice buildup at the turbine outflow, and it's yet to be seen, but the turbine is going to be powered by spring water, and the spring water is going to be, I hope, at around 50 to 52 degrees Fahrenheit. And by the time it hits the turbine, it will have lost some of its heat. So the water flowing out of the outflow will be warmer than freezing. So it shouldn't ice up at all. And Indiglow is asking how much power I'm going to get. Anywhere from 40 watts to, I think around 1,000 watts. But if I pull up my spreadsheet, sorry, I have it on my phone, so I can't just show you guys the spreadsheet and switch screens. I mean, I can maybe rotate the phone around, but that'll just feel clunky too. I could just tell you. The penstock that I'm using maxes out at a certain amount of flow. So I'm just loading up that spreadsheet to see what the peak would be, assuming that I have enough water to flow it. And we know that I do, because I think the spring will output up to 60 gallons per minute, and the penstock starts losing flow to pressure at, I don't know, 40 gallons per minute or something like that. Okay, let's go up to 4 gallon per minute step. Oh, I didn't like that. Oh, let's enable editing the content. Okay. The pipe that I have maxes out at 1,100 watts, and that's the actual electrical energy coming out of the wires. So that includes all of the efficiencies. The flow for that would be 46 gallons per minute would be the peak efficient flow. If you try to flow more gallons per minute than that, then you lose power. Your dynamic pressure starts taking a nosedive. So that's the maximum. 46 gallons per minute would be 1,100 watts through the wires. And that's the maximum output for what I have designed. Now, if I connected the other smaller garden hose, that has an additional peak output of 182 watts and 8 gallons per minute. So if I was running both lines in parallel, that's what I could get approximately. It'd probably be a lot less because the secondary line that I have has a lot of couplers, and the garden hose is actually less than 3/4 inch. So it's probably more like 4 gallons per minute and maybe 100 watts of power that I could get out of that. And I could spend more money and get more penstock, larger penstock, but that money would be better spent on solar and wind and energy efficiency improvements for my house instead of trying to capture more water at peak flow rates. So where's the turbine? It's being built right now. I mean, it's sitting downstairs, and I have some parts coming. So I should have something together, I hope, this coming week. I'll have some parts together and maybe some video, and then I'll be editing it together as I can. Andrew, I'm gonna remove your comment. True Worshippers is asking about overheating the turbines. If you try to push too many amps through it, you'll heat up the wires and burn them out. The generators that I'm using are rated to 4,000 watts, and so I would peak out at 1,100 watts. So I don't have any heat issue worries with that. Spencer Langston, when I was talking with him on the phone, we talked yesterday or 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago now. We talked for probably an hour and a half on the phone, and he said that there's some modifications that can be done to the generator that I have, which is the same one that Chris Harbor has, and like removing the cooling fan. In a lot of the cases, like if I'm having peak flow, it's during winter, so it's cold, so it doesn't need the additional cooling of a big cooling fan. So that's efficiency that could be gained. And then there's efficiency you can gain with the seals and a preload spring washer that can be removed. So that's other ways to increase the efficiency. Now, Chris is saying that the efficiency that you could get from all of those changes would be probably 50 watts, but that's highly dependent on RPM and temperature, and there's a lot of variables for that. But there's things that can be done for the turbines that we're using. Will this project save money long term? Asked by Ian Campbell. Well, long term, yes, it would. But right now, because I'm putting it on YouTube and I have my channel monetized, it's actually already profitable for me. But rest assured, if I wasn't recording it for YouTube, I'd still be doing it for myself and for the house. Maybe just not as flashy and as clean, because I'm trying to do it in a professional manner for you guys, so I don't get a whole lot of people saying you're a sloppy guy who doesn't know how to build anything. Like, I'm trying to put some additional time into it so it looks good and can't be as easily criticized. Lice Yukari is talking about efficiencies. Monolithic domes are efficient if you can build them cheaply. The problem is you can't buy curved sheets of drywall at Lowe's or Home Depot. I mean, you can buy curved sheets of plywood if you get what I'm saying. But generally, building materials come as flat surfaces. So in terms of building a house with materials that we have around here, your best bet is going to be a cube, or actually not even just a cube. I'm talking about for like energy efficiency for heat transfer to the outside in a heating dominated climate. It may not necessarily be a cube. There's some calculus based equations that you could calculate the optimum proportions for a house. It might be even one of those golden rule or golden numbers, like Da Vinci numbers. Is that what they're called? I don't know. And then Andrew's asking about flow for the spring. Peak flow is 60 gallons per minute that I've measured. At least that's what can flow into the barrel. Any more than that, it goes out the overflow. And minimum is going to be around 3 gallons per minute. Or no, I was getting some 1 gallon per minute is the minimum flow, approximately. Curb is asking for a sneak peek on the turbine. Well, you guys already saw the generator in the mail time video. and I don't have the actual turbine runner here. It's going to be in the mail. At least the temporary one. My final one, I don't have any of that stuff purchased yet because I haven't figured out exactly what size I need, because I was going to do a dyno testing video for the generators on my drill press and using like an amp meter and measuring the torque, so you get a proper like mechanical horsepower, and then you can measure the watts out so you can get an efficiency, and then you know what sort of volts it would operate at an operating amperage, and that would determine the diameter of your runner and the number of spoons that you have, and it's just a lot of complicated math, and I don't have all of that information yet, so that's going to take time to put together. Yes, golden ratio, that's what it is. What type of batteries am I using to store the power? Well, the ones that I'm playing around with right now are just batteries that I got on sale at Lowe's for a sump pump. That's all they are. That's all I have. I don't have anything else more fancy right now. Logan's asking for a heads up before the next stream. I guess I can, as long as I know when that will be. So my wife and the kid are out of town, and that's why I can do this now. I guess I could do it other nights, but I'd have to do it downstairs in the shop. But that's okay too. And JAJ040 is asking about cooling. Yes, you can use the water for cooling in the summer, at least when we need it. It doesn't get that hot here. I could run the water through like a radiator core for a car with a fan behind it, and that would probably do a decent amount of cooling, but probably insufficient amounts of dehumidification, because the water wouldn't be cold enough to get sufficient condensation to dry out the air. Now you could use the water as a water-cooled heat pump sink, so that's an option, but that's you'd have to kludge something together to make that work. So I'm getting some repeat questions, so I think it's getting close to time to end the video. But I'll answer them anyways because we're here. It doesn't bother me at all. Zeke's asking about vertical or horizontal, and vertical axis would be more efficient because you have the water lower down and more pressure. And at least for a turgo, for a Pelton, it may be a horizontal axis that is more efficient. And that's for the case of multiple jets. If you have a single jet, then it doesn't really matter. It really depends on what sort of Pelton or turgo, whatever you're using. That would determine the axis of your shaft. That's what she said. Yes, I want to salvage lithium cells. My brother has about 4 kilowatt hours of salvaged laptop cells from the medical field. And maybe using them in Jehu's 18650 7S battery packs, or some guys are modifying them into 15S packs. So I think that would be really cool to do. It'd be really cool to make them hot swappable too. I realize that's not really a feasible thing for batteries generally, because you'd have to balance them, and then the cells would have to be approximately the same capacity. For a Jehu's PCB-based power wall that's modular and hot swappable. And double turbining, so that's the last repeat comment I'll answer. And yes, it can be done and it depends on a whole lot of factors, which I'm not going to say again. If you want, you can maybe go back in the stream and watch my explanation. It'd probably take about 5 minutes. Savings every month would be around $30 per month, I estimate. So my voice is pretty much gone now. I've been doing this for, what, 2 hours, 2+ hours. It's now Sunday. It's after midnight for me. And normally my bedtime is like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. with the kid. So I'm kind of tired now too. And I've been working downstairs all day. So I'm going to head out. And thanks for the super chats, all of you guys. I hope I got all of your comments. And I hope I answered everything that everybody had. And I might go sit in bed, watch some videos, and eat some popcorn. Well, you guys, fix your clocks. Or I might just sit here and eat this whole bowl of popcorn. No, I won't. I could, but I won't. So, good night. Or good morning, if you're, watching in the morning, or have a good lunch, or go to bed.